Welcome to the Elevating Voices in Leadership podcast, brought to you in partnership with Pepperdine University's Graduate School of Education. I'm Dr. Gabriela Miramontes, and I will be your host today. With me today are Dr. Maria Brame, Dr. Asia Ghazi, and Ms. Sue Ellen Schneider. Our guest today is Tatiana Kualeahoa. No, wait, don't. Let me try. Ku'ulealoha Santiago. She's a site coordinator in the Windward Oahu district who provides colleges and career support for middle school and high school students in Hawaii. Tatiana believes that it takes a village to raise a child, and we all have a role to increase capacity for families and communities to thrive. Tatiana was born in Kahuku, Hawaii, and has been a resident there for 30 years. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Community Health Science from the University of Nevada, Reno, and received her master's degree from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, with a focus on global indigeneity and institutional effectiveness. Her main field of expertise involves student services with the goal of achieving success by creating supportive programs and developing future leaders. Tatiana is passionate about growing Indigenous communities through education and empowering them to reach their greatest potential. Please help us in welcoming Tatiana. I'm so excited to have you here. As an alum, I hope I pronounced all the words correctly, or at least close enough. I was trying really hard to make sure that I got everything right. I'm a firm believer that you honor people by, at the very least, attempting to make the right pronunciation, and so I pride myself in trying. So Tatiana, how are you? It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while. I am doing great. By the way, you did a great job at pronouncing my middle name, Ku'ulealoha, and so I give you credit for doing that. Thank you so much for just kind of, it feels good when somebody kind of appreciates and values, where you come from. Your name is super important and is a big part of who you are. So thank you for just acknowledging that. I'm doing great. I am finished with my dissertation, which was really focused on successful strategies of leaders in Hawaii. And, it really was a transforming journey for me and experience. And I'd like to say that it's not done yet. I feel like there is, once you kind of start, you start to do a reflection in yourself and you're like, oh man, like this needs to get taken to my schools and my family and my community. So where I'm at now is just kind of reflecting on what I've learned and trying to then emulate the values and the things that I've learned from my research into my everyday life. And so that has been a journey in itself, because I'm nowhere where I need to be this, amazing, successful leader yet, but I have the foundation and the tools to kind of get started. And that's where I'm at. I'm still working with Hawaii P20. So I work for the University of Hawaii system, and we help our middle schools, high schools, and colleges work together to create a seamless pipeline and pathway for students, whether it's college or workforce or whatever their plans are. We're trying to get people to work together and help our students, accomplish their goals and their dreams. So that's currently what my main focus is on, but I also want to integrate what I learned from my dissertation into these meetings and these spaces that I am responsible for. So, that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here and engaging in this discourse with us. We're so happy to have you. So why don't we go ahead and start, I guess, at the genesis of your, well, it might be the genesis of your journey, I don't know. But let's start with your topic. Let's start with, what prompted you. Talk about your journey a little bit and some of the shifts that happened within your journey.
Yeah, so I think it all started towards the ending of my time at Pepperdine. After I took all the courses and I was going into my comp exams, I was focused more on my work, like, because I was at that time working with early college students. I wanted to create an online platform for them to have counseling services because of COVID. So that was like my main focus at that time, was really on my students and my job and my work. And then not too long after that, there was something that happened in my community that kind of struck a chord with me and was something that I was involved in. I got involved in some civil engagement and really advocating for my community, because we had some things that were coming in to our backyards that we were just not for and not about. And so I found myself through this program going to community meetings, going to talk to legislators and state representatives, going to commission planning meetings to really make sure our community's voices were heard. They were deciding to put up 8 wind turbines in my community, which is like a 2-mile. Our community is about a rural town, small, 2 miles, maybe 2,000 people, but they were going to surround us with 8 to 12 wind turbines. And so that was just something that started to ignite within me this fire and desire to be like, okay, what's happening here? And how come our voices aren't being heard? And so that's when I was like, oh, it's not, I was going to do a dissertation on wind turbines. And I was like, wait, it's not really about the wind turbines. It's more about the leadership and what's happening in that our community's voices felt like we weren't being heard. And so that's when I moved my topic more towards this successful leadership strategies in Hawaii, because to me, it was more about the governance system. It was more about the leaders in these positions. And so I wanted to dive deeper into that. It was kind of totally separate from what I first thought I was going to do, but I found myself involved in this, in my community and in this kind of fight to see our voices be heard. And so that's where my dissertation then led to, was looking at leadership and organizations in Hawaii and how those types of strategies can help any community. And so that's where I got the topic from. And I was kind of in a dilemma. I was like, do I do what I do for work? Because that might be easier, for me, because I'm involved in it. Or do I do this like passion project that popped up? And I'm so glad that I chose to do that and focus more on leadership in Hawaii. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about your findings. What showed up for you? What kind of came through the work that you encountered?
Yeah, one of the main findings was the importance of values, of Hawaiian values, and the importance of your culture and using that within your organization and your leadership style. So many times these leaders, when they go into these positions, don't think of that as their strengths, and they're just trying to, whether it's, go along with what their organization already has, or become like the leaders that they are seeing within that organization, kind of adopting their strategies versus really honing in on the Hawaiian values that I found in my research, and just how you're brought up and you're raised in that background of just culture and family and how important that is in an organization, I think needs to be practiced more and needs to be kind of shared more instead of just having it be a silo. Like, it's totally a part of your leadership. It's totally a part of your organization. And the best leaders who can connect the two will have a successful organization. And so to me, that was important. Some of the values I found was aloha. Aloha is this breath of life through love and compassion. So all the decision making is rooted in aloha and pono, or doing what is right for your organization. So that was one kind of finding. And then also family, or ohana and laulima. So working together, building the strengths of the people in the group, finding out what their strengths are, how important it is to collaborate with one another. All those things that are already a part of, your values as a Hawaiian, using that within your practice. Strengths and finding out what you're good at, what everybody's role is. In a family, everybody has a certain role, and allowing them to utilize that role or utilize their strengths in an organization. And then lastly, this idea of humility or servant leadership is a big thing that I found about Hawaii leaders. Is it's not necessarily about you being on a platform, but more about the things that you do every day that will help to lead your organization and your people. So that was a major finding for me, especially as a leader. I never thought about, how my culture and the values that I hold really impact the decisions that I make every day and the things that I plan for my team. And so that was kind of an awesome revelation for me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brame, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Santiago, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh, and to hear your beautiful voice. It's just such a pleasure working with you on your study and learning sort of alongside you, and all of it. Just I loved working with you on your dissertation. So one thing that I'm curious about, as you're talking about your findings and the essential pieces that are a part of the Hawaiian culture in terms of leadership and, success, so kind of in organizations, and just how communication and how organizations work. Effective, like work sort of organically and effectively within your culture. Now that you've taken a little bit of time, it was a while since your findings sort of gelled. I'm just wondering, looking around, as you look around at your community, at Hawaii, at your fellow Hawaiians and organizations, do you see that these elements are there or are missing or can be kind of refined and identified to help organizations? What do you see when you look with this lens that you have now of an understanding of leadership within the Hawaiian culture, which is completely new? I've never seen anything of this in the literature. What comes to mind for you when you look at operations, organizations, and companies in Hawaii and how they're working and what they should know, what they could know, and like that? I'd love to hear about that.
Wow, that's a great question to really reflect on.
And maybe, let me add, and maybe you haven't done that, but just thinking about at this point, other, organizations in Hawaii, what would you love to see happen that you kind of haven't seen, or what you'd love to communicate with them?
Yeah, so at the core of some of these organizations, I think, yes, this is there, but it's not like kind of pulled out as a strategy. Like, I feel like it is a part of how they, might make decisions, or it's a part of what they do, but within the system itself, it's not really highlighted as these are Hawaiian values, this is part of our culture. I think sometimes they put it there as like their mission statement or their, what is it? They have like, values of the organization. But really, what does that look like in practice? I think that's something that can be fine-tuned a little bit, and maybe examples provided. So I think it's there, but I think there still needs to be some work as to like what this would look like in practice versus just being there as like, this is what we're focusing on as our mission statement, or yeah, I think there has to be more guided kind of discussions around it, and really bringing it to life. Because for Hawaiians, this is kind of like a part of who they are already. So I know that they do it in pockets, organizationally. I don't know if everyone is bought into this, like this is the way, like I think it's still kind of separated, that individuals are doing it and this is part of who they are, but how do you kind of get the whole organization to see this as something that's valuable? So yeah, that's a great question. But I do think that there are organizations coming up now more. So the one that I can think of is Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. And they're doing some great work in, trying to get more Hawaiians into homes, trying to get more scholarships for Hawaiians, business, creating young entrepreneurs who are Hawaiian, getting money from legislation to do more, I guess, leadership summits for our Hawaiian people. So I feel like there are organizations that are starting to rise up and really use this and communicate that out to, the state of Hawaii. And so the ones that are able to kind of communicate this vision and communicate, this model, I think are being very successful in some of the initiatives that they're able to roll out into the community. So that was one example that I could think of, like, wow, this organization connects with my research that I did, my dissertation. Like I could see how they're using their values and their culture within their organization. So yeah.
That's so cool. And of course, your findings are so new. I mean, you just finished your dissertation and kind of spent a little time recovering, right? So it's going to be so cool to see sort of where you take it, and where you can really share the knowledge effectively, and with organizations, and how they can use it, and really work from an identity, a researched identity perspective, which and that can work in so many different places, which is so cool, and family, and just home, and all kinds of places. So I'm curious too, so I'm gonna ask, so I see the logo that you have behind you, Clear Up, or Gear Up.
Gear Up.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Gear Up is, I think it stands for Gaining Early Awareness for Readiness. I actually don't know what Gear Up stands for, but it is the program that I work for that helps students get ready for college, navigate transitions within high school to middle school. And so it's really helping our Native Hawaiian students, students from disadvantaged backgrounds who just need that support and resources to kind of help them get through from high school to college, and even in middle school as well. So I've just started working for them, actually being in the Pepperdine program. I ended up going from a counselor to now more of a coordinator or supportive coordinator role, which is very interesting because I took that. The first class we had at Pepperdine was, you take this test on your leadership, style, and how do you operate out of your natural, abilities, and am I operating out of it? And so mine was a supportive coordinator. And it's just so happened that I ended up becoming a coordinator after being in the program, because I could see now that, okay, maybe I am more of a coordinator role, supportive coordinator, but I can still do some counseling duties too. So I love the work that I do. I work with 8 high schools and middle schools on the windward side of Oahu, helping our principals and our administrators and counselors to really see the value of alignment with their programming, a value of working with each other to create these pathways and programs, and really just making sure that they're all talking with each other about these things, because our students go from, middle school, high school, post-secondary, and sometimes they're confused as to how they get there, right? So it's having all of us collaborate on how we can make that a seamless transition for them. So yeah, that is who I work for now. And it's interesting to see where I'm at from where I started in the program. So kudos. I think the program really helped me to be like, oh, open my eyes. Maybe I can do more and be more. And so that's where I'm at now.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And it's fascinating. So we had 2 Hawaiian centered dissertations back to back, almost one the year before you finished, and then your dissertation. And one of the things that I noticed was in both was this connection to community, but also connection to nature. And when you said that, what prompted the whole thing for you was the impact to your community, right? Getting those wind turbines put in. On a side note, what happened with that? Were you able to stop it, or did they go in?
They went in. But
we'll come back. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, they went in, but we ended up, I think, as a community growing stronger in that now we have an association. Now we are at, these meetings and board meetings to make sure that this doesn't happen again to our community. So things have actually come from it that were good. Unfortunately, they're still there, but we're still in this fight to get them taken down and to have the setback law be, further from homes and schools in the community. So it's still a work in progress. They are up, but I think as a community, we actually grew together, and as a state, like people from all over came to help and support us. So it was kind of like a movement that happened just within our little community. So yeah.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So my question about the work that you were doing is one of the things that I noticed, like I was saying, in both dissertations was this connection to community, connection to nature, but it was beyond that. It's almost like there's a sense of how can I put this? Like that spirit, the spiritual side of it. There seems to be a connection that goes beyond just community or but it's bigger than that. And I'm not doing it justice. I'm not articulating it correctly, but as you went through the process, Tatiana, how were you impacted? How were you impacted by the work you were doing around your dissertation? And I'm not talking necessarily about the mechanics, but you as a person, how did it impact you?
Yeah, so I think the term that you're looking for, I know the Hawaiian term that you're trying to describe. And so what you're describing is this idea of aloha aina, or love for the land. And Hawaiians believe that the land is their ancestor. The land is a part of who they are. And we are called to steward it and steward it well. And we have been blessed with, natural resources like water and food from the land. And so our role as Hawaiians is to then take care of it, because if we take care of it, it will take care of us, right? And so we really believe in that aloha aina and your connection to land, and that we have stemmed from the aina because we believe that it's part of our family. The aina is our ohana, or our family. And so that is kind of what's been rooted within me too, and kind of how I changed, I guess. This dissertation kind of reminded me of the importance of aloha aina, and that spirit of aloha, right? So that spirit that you are breathing life into something by the words you say, by the things you do. You are breathing the life of your ancestors, your Keokua or God. Like, you are that vessel to kind of then steward the land. And so that kind of was mind-blowing for me, because sometimes you get so caught up in the mechanical things that you need to do, the organizations itself, the things that are not going so well in your community. But then this kind of reshifts your focus back to, okay, no, we have a responsibility here to to aloha aina, or to take care of the land and take care of one another. And I think people can, not just Hawaii or Hawaiians, like when I look at it globally, like there are things that people can learn from Hawaii and learn from Hawaiians that can help them in their communities, like just the importance of water, the importance of, your natural resources, and on your how you survive. Like your survival is dependent on if these things are thriving. And so I feel like not just Hawaiians, but everybody around the world can learn from this aloha aina, or this love and care for this land that we all live on. We all have someplace we live. Are we taking care of it, and are we stewarding it well? I think Hawaiians have done a great job of that, especially amid all of the, hotels and corporations and all these huge things that have been built here. We are still able to survive as a people, and so and thrive as a people, I think. And there's so much that the world can learn about Hawaii that can ultimately transform their communities and their cities. So that was revealing to me. Like, I'm just not learning this aloha aina for myself, but also other people can learn from it too.
Thank you.
Listen to you is so nice to see this perspective. First, because I love to hear different cultural experience and aspects, etc. And the second is, when you were talking about that, taking care of the land, take care of the water, what you were saying to me is about taking the responsibility for whatever happens to our surroundings, to us, and to the community. Because if we are responsible, if we needed to take care, so we are responsible. And also another thing that I remember when you were saying was, once I was introduced to another Hawaiian, it is kind of a meditation for forgiveness. So it is this sense of taking responsibility and forgiveness. Could you kind of tell a little bit about your perspective of these two sides, taking responsibilities and forgiveness in leadership and organization, and how do you think it could make a positive impact?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because kind of like what Dr. Miramontes said about the spirit of this, I think forgiveness is a big part of how you can then steward the land well. I think there has been a lot of wrongs that have been done to just Hawaii people and Native Hawaiians, from illegally overthrowing our queen and what is done to our state, and so going back to that, and just the loss of our language, the loss of our people. Right, there is a lot of anger, and I can personally attest to, like, some days I do feel angry about the things that have been done to my people. But that's why aloha is kind of like that, that love that is bigger than yourself. I think that you can then look at it from the lens of aloha and be like, you know what? Okay, this happened. We are continually moving together as a people and kind of fighting together. But in order to get to that place, we have to kind of come to terms with what has happened and then move forward together as a community. And I think forgiveness is a big part of that. But I also think just this awareness and this ability to then voice and be kind of like our queen. So our queen was somebody who was very, she didn't want bloodshed. She did what was right for her people. And she ultimately wanted what was best for them. And she was able to kind of act in the spirit of aloha, even though everything else around her was just kind of like being taken over. And so I am inspired by our queen, Queen Liliuokalani, and how that then plays into our responsibility as Hawaiians to exude aloha and to take care and steward the land well. And sometimes people just use the word aloha and just, they put it on signs, or they do it in a greeting, but really aloha is more than that. Like aloha is forgiveness, aloha is compassion, aloha is light, aloha is breath, right? So I think making more people aware of that is important. And yeah, so that was a really good question. Forgiveness is key to stewarding the land well. Yes.
You just accomplished your mission today. You just made one more person aware of these, how big and how extensive the meaning of aloha might be. And thank you for that. It was a beautiful explanation.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, Tatiana, I actually enjoyed looking through your dissertation and listening to your final defense. And the history of Hawaii, it struck me. Like, it really, I was like, wow, so this is another place, that has rich history. It has, history from like the religion and the background and stuff that Hawaiians had, Native Hawaiians had. I'd love to know a little bit more in terms of, the queen that you're talking about and her leadership, and maybe a little bit about how women in Hawaii really emulate, the leadership from that queen. I mean, if is that something that you've seen within, the leaders in Hawaii, female leaders, especially in Hawaii?
Yeah, I think just the queen brought this royalty to her, like this presence of just calm and confidence, and this regalness to her that was ultimately rooted in what was best for her people. And so I can see that in different leaders that have come through. But I think ultimately, so for example, my mom worked for the Queen, or the Queen Liliuokalani Children's Center, because she had this heart for students who were orphan, students who suffered grief and loss. And so my mom worked for the Queen. I worked for the program that were helping these families kind of get through those hard times and those difficult times. And so that is something that I think resonates with me with the Queen. Was she was someone who really looked into those communities that didn't have, or looked at communities that were struggling and needed help, and she was really there to provide that the services and the support and the healing, or we call it ho'oponopono, that this healing that happens between families that will ultimately help them become more happier and more filled with peace and more connected as a family. And so the things that the Queen did were amazing. I wish that I was alive during when the Queen was around so that I could really experience it. But her legacy lives on and her legacy continues. And so I think that was in my dissertation, was just talking about the effects of colonization, the impacts of that, how that impacted Hawaii and what it looks like today, how it impacts our culture. And so I think it's important to know the history of Hawaii and why the stewardship of land is so important today, because that was the goal of the Queen. That was the goal of even ali'i before, or chiefs before, was to really steward the land well. And so, once we kind of got away from the Hawaiian values and culture as the center and focus, and we kind of went towards this Western ideology and Western, influence, I think that really impacted our people. And so now it's going back and saying, okay, what can we do as Hawaiians to get us back to this place of healing and peace and stewarding our land well, even though we're still kind of under this Western system. So.
Yeah. You mentioned Ho'oponopono. Did I say that correctly? Okay, I wanted to make sure I said it correctly. And I remember like listening to this. So a lot of people now, and I see this in coaching circles. I've seen this in like the New Age circles too. A lot of people talk about Ho'oponopono as a way of forgiveness, and it's becoming a part of even our own cultures. I mean, if you kind of look into what people are doing now in regards to that, they're really putting this as a part of that. So I kind of wonder what your thoughts are, knowing that even in the Western world, they're taking these components of the Hawaiian culture, of, you know, these ideologies, and really incorporating it into their own cultures and teaching other people, you know, ho'oponopono.
Yeah, so for me personally, I think in Hawaii we have kumu or teachers or kupuna or elders who knew what ho'oponopono was and were trained in ho'oponopono. And so they are the ones that know exactly how it works, exactly how the healing process happens. I am leery to say that anybody can just do ho'oponopono, because you can't, you know, like I feel like there are certain people that know how to do it and are trained to do it. And it's very important that you kind of get that before you start to do it, because then it can go all wrong, because you're tapping into like the spirit of ho'oponopono and you're tapping into the healing process. And so it doesn't just happen overnight. It is an ongoing thing with families and people who are you know, in conflict and trying to get through it. And so I've seen some, I don't know, there's like TikToks and videos out there about this thing. And I'm like, oh no, that's not what, you know, it really is like for Hawaiians, you know? And so I think it's really trying to understand from the teachers that know what it is and are actually practicing it, to then learn from them, because that's how we learn, is from the kumu and the kupuna or teachers and elders. And it wasn't kind of to be shared in that way, like just, I don't know how to explain it. I think sometimes media and all of that just takes it out of context. It is actually very personal, very within your family, very, you know, you kind of deal with ho'oponopono together with everybody there. Whereas some of the things that I've seen have not been kind of what was rooted in our Hawaiian values. So I would just kind of, yeah, not really, I think I have to do more research on ho'oponopono and that in itself, because some of the things that I've been seeing lately has not been kind of rooted in the Hawaiian culture and the things that we practice. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask, because I've been seeing a lot of that. So when you mentioned it here, I'm like, oh, this is something that's becoming very popular in terms of, you know, forgiveness and so forth. But like you said, if they don't know what it is that they need to learn, then it might, you know, not be the right way. I haven't seen anything on TikTok, but or at least because I'm not really always on there, but I know that people who practice that. And so I was wondering about that. And I have one last question, and that is, you know, how much of the language do you speak? Do you speak Hawaiian fluently?
I did not speak Hawaiian fluently. I went to like Hawaiian 4 in high school, so I understand some of the words, and I am still learning, because so Olelo Hawaii, there are actually different dialects depending on where you come from. And so it's not just Olelo Hawaii, like if you're from a certain island, then there's a certain, you know, there's a certain language that you speak. So it's very different and complex just based on where you come from. So yeah, I don't speak fluently, but I just kind of growing up around Hawaii, just the importance of the language, and, you know, making sure that the Hawaiian words are shared and spoken. And yeah, so I'm not fluent. I would love to be fluent, but yeah, I still value our language. And yeah, a lot of my family members are actually taking their kids through Hawaiian immersion programs now, just because they see the value of it. But my parents and grandparents were actually told not to speak Hawaiian language in schools. It was frowned upon. And so, yeah, if not, they were not being good, industrious men and women. They were being good students, right? And so they grew up in that generation. And so for me, I had to kind of be like, no, I want to learn Hawaiian language. You know, I want to know what my culture is like. And so now the younger generation, I think, is kind of taking this like, we want to be more a part of want to know our language and know our identity and culture. So yeah, that's exciting to see.
That is. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Tatiana, I have a question for you. Given your journey, given everything you've experienced, what would you say to emerging Indigenous leaders in Hawaii? Just based on your journey, based on your experiences.
Yeah, that is so good. I would love to build the confidence of our future Indigenous leaders, telling them that they matter, telling them that they belong, telling them that their culture is their greatest strength and asset, that I would build upon those strengths. For example, we have students that are great fishermen and can feed their families. Like, that is a strength, and that is something that is a gift that needs to be elevated and encouraged. But sometimes when they go to school, nobody knows that they're a fisherman and can catch all this squid and fish, right? So it's really encouraging our young people to utilize their strengths, utilize their gifts and talents that have been given, and really make the world a better place, because they need those strengths and gifts. Whether it's even some of our Native Hawaiians are great. They've been blessed with this gift of song and dance and chant, but using that within their schools, within their families. Like, I think sometimes it's not seen as that, like, but it's definitely something that I think, our schools need more of, and our society needs more of, are these strengths and these gifts that our students have. So I would encourage them to, find that gift, highlight it, elevate it, and just keep living it out, because it's very important into who they become in the future. And so, yeah, that would be my thing. And then this, from my research, just learning about the values and how important that is, I would love to see more schools and families use that type of model where it's rooted in Hawaiian values, because that's what we know best. Sometimes, they want to try a different way. And I think that what's good for Hawaiians is good for everyone. And so utilizing more of those values within the family and within these students. And yeah, a big reason why I decided to do my dissertation too is to show them that they can do it too. So I was in circles where they never thought that college was possible, or they never thought that, they could, study something like this, like this, you could do this, like you can go get your doctorate in being the best Hawaiian you can be, like, and what does that look like? So I really wanted to show them that they can do this too, but they can also make it their own. So one of my goals, because I was a teacher before and a counselor, one of my goals that I told my students was to get a doctorate, and they were freshmen at the time. And so we all kind of did this goal setting together, and now they are seniors. And I got my doctorate, and they're like, oh, Miss, like I graduated from high school, you graduated with your doctorate, like, and they're continuing on to college. So it's just this like culture and this community that I wanted to create to show them like, hey, I'm in the same boat as you guys. Like, if I could do this, you could do this too. And so that was a big motivator for me as well, to finish and to get it done. But all my students are pretty much continuing on to college. So it's so awesome to see that impact and see, what they're going to do with their lives and what's going to come from it. So yeah, that's good.
So in these last few minutes, Dr. Santiago, I know I keep calling you Tatiana. But what's next? What's next for you? What's next for your research? What's next for your future, if you will?
Yeah, that's a good question that everybody is asking me now that I'm done. They're like, so what are you going to do? I think there is more. I feel like once you start, it's hard to kind of just stay stagnant. Like I feel like there is more that I want to research, even like how to navigate through these challenges as Native Hawaiians. Like, okay, these are the values that we hold, but what if you go to an organization and they don't hold those values? Like, how do you navigate through that, but still stay true to who you are? So yeah, and I would also like to maybe partner up with other Native Hawaiian researchers in this field and in this area so that we can kind of create a group together and figure out, okay, these are some of the issues we see, like based on our research and based on what we know, like how can we move forward and how can we use the things that we've researched, like kind of like a, I don't know, we call it a hui, but like a group of us that are kind of on the same page. So I would love to connect with other researchers and see what they have done with their dissertations so that we, I can see how, I can support and help or contribute to what they've done. The question about the next generation, that has kind of sparked an interest in me too. Like, is there something that I can build or create to help our next generation leaders based on this model that has come from this research? So I'm not sure if it's going to be a program or I don't know, just start with one community and gather these youth and start to have these discussions around what do you want to do in your future and how do your values and gifts tie into that. So there's been a lot of ideas rolling around in my head on how I can use this. I think it's a matter of just doing it because of course I'm like, oh, the fear, like what are people gonna, is it gonna happen? And then I'm like, no, like this, you didn't learn all this stuff just to learn it. Like you're gonna have to find an avenue to then go and make sure that you do something with it. So I don't know if that answered your question. I'm not quite sure yet. I have some ideas, but I still just have to follow this my gut and go with what's next for me. So yeah.
So I just want to put in a little plug for you and your accomplishment that you have achieved already. You're a doctor, and you are a scholar, a Hawaiian scholar, and a scholar of Hawaii. And there aren't that many of you. And just, that's just something to keep in mind. The kind of unique opportunity that you have to maybe work with other scholars of Hawaii to influence and to help, right?
Yeah.
Help and to be a role model and to share the aloha. And I have really loved listening to you this afternoon. Your voice has this amazing confidence and depth of knowledge that feels so good to listen to. And I mean, I could just listen all day and learn and feel good about, how good you feel about your community and your people and your heritage, and all of it is so inspiring and nourishing. And so I think there's so much there that you have to offer, and that you can share with all of your people, especially youth who are not sure where to go or where to turn or what to do or how to really feel good about themselves and their heritage. So I just wanted to share that because I personally just feel so happy about your accomplishments and thrilled about what you might be able to do as your own journey moves forward, and your curiosity and your conviction and your excitement about how you can help, and where you want to help and what you want to do, and who matter, how how you can influence your beloved people and place. So I just wanted to share that because I feel really good about everything you've done and what you're going, and even more than that, what you're going to do. So super happy. So grateful to get to be here today with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Brahme. Yeah, this has been such a rewarding experience for me, just as a person who never thought that she could do this. It's just kind of solidified, like, no, you're meant to do this. You're meant to be here. You're a doctor, like, I think reminding myself of that, and then continuing to do good work, whether it's in my community, in my actual career, or with my family. I am a part of a Native Hawaiian Education Association, so maybe that's the place that I'll start with, getting back. Because when I did my doctorate, I kind of like just focused on that. So all my friends in that committee were like, where are you? Like, what have you been doing? I'm like, guys, I'm doing my doctorate. You guys just gotta let me kind of, do that for a year. But now that I'm done, maybe going back to that group and saying, hey, what did you guys do for your dissertation? How can we, work together? Because most of them, I think, do have their doctorates as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just want to point out, I love that you said, and I know we're at the end of the time, and oh my gosh, we could keep talking so long because it's so fascinating, but the memory that you have of, and that all of us have, of sort of what we felt when we started the journey. It's like, oh my goodness, can I do this? Oh my goodness, how could I do this, kind of thing. And seeing that and understanding that experience among, the students that you work with and so forth, they're like, I can never do this. Oh my gosh, I could never do this. But knowing that you felt that same way, and here you are a doctor. So sharing that and with an understanding and compassion, I know that you, of course, will do that in a most beautiful way. So just thank you so much for being here today and sharing all of this.
Thank you.
So incredibly good. Yeah. So,
this felt good today. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
So thank you, Tatiana, for being here today and for participating and sharing with us some of your work and that which you have coming up. Before we close, is there anything more you'd like to add?
No, I think you all are wonderful. I wouldn't be here today without you guys and your encouragement and your support and believing in me, and just, Tati, this is good. Keep at it. And so, I'm always just so grateful and thankful because, without your guys' help and support, I wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you. And with that, thank you all for joining us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please remember to click the subscribe button. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all next week.